Well, let's start off, I guess, talking about Queen Shadow.
The Queen Shadow. For those of you that don't read books, but you got us, and we're going to talk about this book and how you should feel about it.
How they should feel about it?
Yeah.
I was just going to talk about how I felt about it and what's in the book.
That makes more sense. We should do that.
Yeah. So Queen Shadow is, I think,
Johnston.
E.K. Johnston, the first of the Padme, I think, trilogy of books.
Yeah. Did they know that when it was coming out?
I don't know if they knew that when it came out or not. I'm not sure. I do think that this book, well, I'm going to say this, but it's not for me.
Okay.
I think this book is most of the things that people don't like in episode 1. You know what I mean? It's very, I always hear people complain about the political aspect of episode 1.
Sure.
This has a lot of the politics because this is Padme getting into the Senate.
True.
And beginning her journey in the Senate.
I get what you mean.
You know what I mean?
know what? Look, most of us, a lot of us, not most of us, but a lot of us, especially of our generation, we were young when we watched that movie.
I didn't care. I liked it all.
Like
there's E.T. over there. Look at him.
I know, but like George Lucas was being yelled at by his producers. You can't have the antagonist be a 10-year-old. You can't have him be a kid. And he's like, who the fuck do you think I'm making this for? I'm making it for 10-year-olds.
Sure, yeah.
And then they're like, well, you can't have all this politics stuff. It's like, there's adults there too. It's a little bit in there for everybody.
And it definitely showcases, there's a political side to what Palpatine has to do, right? And it shows his rise to power while it also shows the rise of Padme into being a leader, into being in the Senate, into understanding the Senate.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of cool, like, little character nods into things that we see and meet in the Clone Wars.
Yes, we absolutely do. In the review, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, but there were a couple things that I felt like we got characters, but I don't know if they matched super well with what I saw in the Clone Wars. We got some cool Padme and especially handmaiden stuff, but ultimately, and I like the book. I thought it was like an interesting character study. But what happened?
What happened in this book?
Yeah.
What's
the plot and who's the antagonist? I know that's very simple questions.
Sure.
And it's a shorter, more, youth-oriented book, I think. I think my main criticism of the book is, I can't tell you, what happened in the book. Just that a bunch of stuff happened. I enjoyed the stuff that I was seeing, but I can't tell you what the plot was.
Sure. I think I get what you mean.
Yeah.
And I think also, if you read the book and you don't know some characters and you don't know what's happening, I think there's characters like Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, that could maybe seem antagonistic because there's a mystery about them in this, right? That Padme doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like the main character, she doesn't know. We know because we've watched the movies.
We're going into the ignorance of the character.
Yeah.
Again, a character study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're seeing her growth into some alliances that she makes with Mon Mothma, with Bail Organa, with the Rodian Far?
Anaconda Far.
Anaconda Far? I couldn't remember the first name at all. Yeah. But I was like, Far! There's Far in there. And you see her coming into the Senate and earning their maybe trust or respect or at least something into that such, right?
Finding her true political voice or just voice in general. Padmé Amidala is a role that she's created. The Queen of Naboo, when elected to that point, especially being so young, is like a part she's playing.
Sure.
And she has understudies, and they all got to be able to play the same part. And when you do that really well, you don't really know who Padmé Amidala is, right? Yeah. That's her original name. That's who she is. But she's been, prepared for this all, to become the queen. And now that she's more of a politician, way more than she would have been when she was queen. There, she was more of a symbol, I feel like. Here, she actually gets to, come into her own and realize you can do stuff this way, the easy way. Maybe someone in the Senate and in the news would say the better way, or what she really thinks about herself, and that's what she finds. And that was cool. I like that part.
Yeah. I think the book covers a lot, like you said, character study. It covers a lot of Padme, her thoughts, her progression, when and how she learns different things.
Yeah.
There's one of the things I really liked is that we get a lot more Sabe. We get Sabe at all. Like I didn't
all
know.
The ones that we know: Sabe, Dorme, Corday, right? Sofia Coppola. Yeah, sure.
Corday was in this, which she, she dies at the beginning of episode 2, right?
I failed you, Senator.
Yeah, we have Sabe, which I don't even know what happened to her, right? Like, she was in the first movie, and I don't remember her in episode 2 or in episode 3. She might have been there, but I don't remember her at all.
Yeah. Only in my study for the Schmodown did I come across some canon material that features Sabe in something that we'll probably check out later.
Okay.
Maybe next year.
Okay, that'd be cool. So I don't know if the book itself is fed into a trilogy and really builds upon like what is an antagonistic force and what does she have to deal with.
Yeah.
But the thing I really liked was that it did dive into, she met this little boy on this planet as a slave, and it's like, well, she just never did anything about that. And in this one here, like that is in the forefront of her mind. Like, I want to help these slaves. I don't want to buy them. I want to free them.
She specifically goes looking for Shmi Skywalker and can't find her. Yeah. That was really interesting.
She sends Sabe to go find her, and she doesn't. She does free, I think it was like 20, 25 slaves.
Yeah.
Which was good, but I don't think she feels like it's enough.
It's more slaves than I've freed.
But it's really important to those 25, you know? Yeah. So I like that was added into this, where it was also part of Sabe's story. But it's also really connected to Padme and a goal that she had. That what are you going to do now that you're not queen? That was like the first thing she was wanting to do.
Yeah.
And I was like,
the things I should be able to do.
Yeah. And in this book, Anakin pops up in her mind more than once, right? So it's not just like, get to episode 2 and Padme's just like, oh, hey, I forgot all about you. Like, she has thought about him a few times because he's made an impression. She has his little necklace thing that made
Japor snippet.
Yeah, she. There's that. There's like, oh yeah, when he thought I was an angel. Like,
Well, he represented the innocence of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right. This sweet young boy who's a slave in the Republic does nothing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Chancellor Palpatine's he's working on that.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna do something. But
he's the most. Oh my God, he can convince you that he's going to get something done, and he knows completely nothing will get done about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he looks like he's helping, right?
He does.
That's the thing.
He looks like he's helping. He's also looking like, he's talking like, oh, you can't go too hard. I can't show you that much support. It would look weird because I replaced the guy who you said sucks, and I'm from your planet, So they have this like, Padme is stunted by this weird feeling of being, looked at and scrutinized way more than other junior senators are, right?
Yeah.
And you would think that her connection to Palpatine should be like a leg up, but he makes it seem more of like a detriment.
Yeah. And like she looks like she's more on his side kind of thing, so she's kind of looked down on as a senator and stuff too. So there's a lot of struggle she goes through with that I thought was just interesting to kind of like explore.
Sure. I asked like if it was like a planned trilogy or not, just because I did kind of feel like
what's the antagonist of the story? Because I thought the pirates. There's a lot of talk of the pirates and invading and doing things, and I thought that was going to be a bigger part maybe. Too. And there was a segment that was like an action-y fighting the pirates kind of moment, protecting this convoy.
Yeah.
Bilaba showed up for a little bit with that.
I personally felt like it was half a good book. That's kind of my review of it. I liked it. Mm-hmm. The half I read was good, but I feel like I was missing another half, in my opinion. But maybe that's just because I'm instantly comparing it to all the other books that we've read, and you don't necessarily have to do that.
No.
This felt like a really easy read for me, Not a bad thing. I enjoyed the time I spent, but this is the first time I ever felt like I think I can use more. Whereas usually I get to the end of the book, I'm like, you could have dropped this, and this, and we've been good,
Sure.
But maybe that's good. I wanted more. I don't know.
I did. I thought about the pirates thing, and maybe that's going to come back more because I don't feel like they really solved a pirate issue. Yeah. They saved a convoy at one point, but
I mean, ultimately they utilized being able to make concrete.
Yeah, sure.
On a committee about concrete,
helping the one planet and stuff,
so that this planet can have more concrete. And I was like, okay, cool. What happens next? Like, that's it. We're done with the book. Like, okay.
Sure. I get you. I mean, I don't really have an answer for that. Like, that's kind of where it goes with that.
Well, if you don't mind, I would like to go into the Queen Shadow. Who dwells in the Queen Shadow?
I mean,
the handmaidens.
Is it about the handmaidens? Is it also about Padme?
I think it is.
Often dwells in the Queen's shadow herself?
Yeah, I mean, I personally never really thought about how much Padme, when she is in disguise as a handmaiden, as Padme, like, we are brave, she would have to, like, sit there and just trust the person is speaking for her in that way. And
that
also,
person has to know her very well, speak for her, not just like her, but also like knowing enough of what Padme would want to speak the way that Padme would want it.
Yeah.
To just throw that illusion, you know.
I mean, I think that would have been like a really cool, especially that they're not just handmaidens, like they're bodyguards.
Yeah.
And she does say like my loyal bodyguard when she's talking about Sabe, but we didn't really get to see that. But we get to see some pretty cool stuff, or at least hear about some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
That these handmaidens can do. But,
I love like within all the handmaiden stuff. Like some of the stuff I like is getting a better glimpse into. They talk about the dress, like how having to switch into it.
How long that can take?
There was how long to do that in the painting.
Yeah.
Like there was a scene where they have to like do it real quick and they're practicing to try to prepare that. But I also thought it was interesting that they talked about like, you have. A comlink hidden in your robe or whatever it was for like Bail Organa or something like that. Like imagine how much tech I can hide in this.
Like I got a whole personal shield in here.
Yeah, yeah. They talked about some kind of
silk. Are you
silk.
humming?
There's a type of silk that could like withstand more as well, like blasts or something like that. And I was like, okay, interesting. I never thought about this being more than just like for show. But there's so much more you could do with that. And I was like, that's interesting.
Like it's for show. It's also for protection, but it's also easily duplicated to another person. Like when you're just really focusing on this, it's like, well, I put thick makeup on.
Yeah, there's so much here that you're distracted by. Like you don't realize this person's someone else.
Do you remember the first time watching episode 1 and being like, oh, that hasn't been Padme the whole time? You know,
I think I remember being like, oh,
do you remember that? I don't really have that memory. I think it's just been too long.
Sure.
Or I don't know. I don't have.
It would be my first time watching the theaters, you know, and I'm like. I don't know. I think I remember like being like, oh, whoa, okay. But also, I don't know. I mean, the ideas of Padme, did I know any of that or anything ahead of time at all? I don't think I did. I think I would have been shocked.
Yeah.
But that and like, the father thing in Empire Strikes Back, like I don't remember not knowing that either, you know? But I did like in this one for that same talk, like she talks about how like there's only like 2 people that I never fooled. Like Bail Organa realized who I was. The first person who never was fooled was Qui-Gon Jinn. And the way that she talked about it sounded like he knew. He always knew.
Yeah.
Like it was never like he found out at some point. Like so he's like, all right, come on, handmaiden. If the queen must, I guess I will take you. You know?
I always assumed he didn't know.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
Did you ever assume?
There's a smirk that he had at the end where I felt like watching it more recently, I'm like, well, he knew.
Okay.
But when did he know?
I always thought he just figured out in that moment. He's like, damn. She got me.
I always felt like in that moment that Obi-Wan was kind of like, what? And Qui-Gon was kind of like,
Yeah.
Like, now she says it. But my question was always like, when did he come to that conclusion?
I hope it's immediately. Qui-Gon Jinn, he is the one Jedi.
In the moment, right?
In the moment.
So I love it whenever it's like, like the queen wouldn't approve of this. Well, the queen
doesn't need to know.
Like
queen doesn't need to know, huh? What are you gonna say?
So then she goes, well, I don't approve.
He's like, well, then you're not the queen, are
you? Like I think it's so fun that he kind of he knows and he's toying with her in that moment.
Okay, well, this book will forever change how I watch those scenes.
Yeah,
we talk about how when we expand Star Wars, it changes the way you watch sometimes. That will forever change the way I watch that scene.
Yeah. Like now, think about watch episode 1 again and be like, okay, Qui-Gon knows at all times now, and see what you think about it that way. That this is always Padme and this is always the Queen.
Yeah.
Like I also love too, like because I don't think I probably never thought about when I was a kid of like, oh yeah, you send the handmaiden to go clean R2-D2.
Yeah.
The Queen's not gonna clean R2-D2.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what the Queen does. The Queen goes. So like it's also an interesting thing that, and I think they talk about it at some point in this book where it's like Padme sometimes has to go do dirty work because she has to pretend to not be the Queen sometimes.
I'm playing the Queen right now. Sabe is like, Padme will go clean it.
Right.
What are you gonna do? You can't say anything. That's really funny, and why they're such friends.
Yeah.
Because I would 100% do that to you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I'm the king now, so go.
Aaron, go clean the R2 unit.
Yeah, right.
You know how hard it is to clean carbon scoring?
Right, yeah. Luke says it's hard, man. So I thought that was that's one of the things I think I liked about this book is that I felt like it added, and I like the prequels a lot anyway because I grew up with them, right? I think it added 2 elements of the prequels and the Clone Wars where I'm thinking about them and how they relate to this book.
Yeah.
Now, there is kind of what you said, like, is there any weird elements of how they introduce characters to what we get in Clone Wars, right? So we get
a little bit, yeah.
We get
Rush Clovis.
Clovis, yeah. I was gonna say Lux, but no, not Lux. We get Bonteri, the Senator Bonteri.
Yes.
And we get Clovis in this, and Far.
Yeah, Far's good. I felt like it melded well for me. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, because I actually didn't go back and look, but I thought this was the case. Bonteri, Padme kind of talks about how she was a mentor before she became like a mentor on Naboo.
She mentions it?
She's like, oh, she was a mentor of mine on Naboo before I came to the Senate. And here, she's introduced when she's a senator to another senator.
Yeah.
And that didn't, so I'm going like, and I really should, I just haven't had time.
Sure.
I should have went back and tried to find those scenes.
Because that's in Clone Wars. I think it's mentioned in the episode when like she's going to talk to the separatists, like people to see if they could like come to an agreement and stop this war, right? Like there's a Clone Wars episode like that. I think it's the same episode where she dies too,
so
right?
I feel like there's a small continuity break in there, which again, we've talked about continuity breaks in the past and how I kind of like see it as more like, look, we're, these aren't Lego bricks. Like we're kind of putting this stuff in, fitting it in. You can still enjoy the ride if it's not, seamless, just don't put your hands outside, you might get snagged.
And, there's conversations in there too where with Bail and Mon Mothma, they talk about her relations with her and with Bonteri, and she's like, I will not betray her. I want to cultivate a friendship with her, kind of thing. So I think that part relates well to Clone Wars, where they become friends and they want to work together, even if they're on different sides of the war, different sides of opinion, or whatever it is. But I get what you mean. Like there's a few elements there that can kind of seem weird, where I'm like she overhears which must be Dooku. They never say it's Dooku, but it must be Dooku that she's talking to. I can't imagine who else it would be. It's not gonna be Palpatine.
I believe it's Dooku, though there was an element even there. Senator Bonteri kind of like is enraptured and seems to be really like into Dooku in the Clone Wars, whereas here, if it is him, she seems afraid and kind of scared of him, And you can say like, well, I mean,
it could start that way.
It could start that way and evolve, so that's not that big of a deal. Yeah. There's also the Clovis thing, where I kind of felt like Padme and Clovis might have been a little closer than they appear here. Right here, it kind of seems like Clovis has a crush. He goes in for a kiss. She's like, what the hell, dude? And that's it, And I don't know. There's something about their history that makes that feel more in the Clone Wars, but it's not as bad as the Bonteri thing, where it's like, I feel like there was a contradiction there,
Yeah, and there might be. And I need to go back and watch that part of the Clone Wars then and see if it does contradict it at all. But with the Clovis thing, like, I definitely felt like there's been, like, a relationship, or maybe he really wanted a relationship. But there's a lot of time in between that we could maybe have that maybe the other books cover or something like that too, where maybe there is more that happens there before Episode 2 and before the Clone Wars.
Maybe.
But at the very least, you at least know that he is interested in Padme and that there's a bit of a friendship, but also some awkwardness because of that, but friendship and relationship aspects that maybe she could take advantage of, and that's why they send her to talk to him there in whichever episode.
Yeah, you're right. They do kind of like imply like, you two are close.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But how do the Jedi know that? All we know about their closeness is that he awkwardly tried to kiss her, and then she was like, what? No. And he's like, oh, God. Oh, what have I done? Oh, no. And he runs out of the room. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah. But maybe using that same thing. Like, we know Clovis likes you. So
heard he kissed you? We did.
Yeah. So that's the Clone Wars episode, I think, where she goes and Anakin's like her pilot or bodyguard or something, right? Like, So, I don't know. And maybe we get more out of the other books, Mm-hmm. But I think there's at least, it's seeded that there's something there, even if it's like not quite what I was maybe thinking of.
Sure.
But
Error to the Face says, since you speak of Clovis, if he were to be portrayed in live action, who would you choose for that role? And he's got to be handsome. He has to compete with Hayden Christensen, who's incredibly handsome.
Where are we? Like, are we
Clone Wars?
Are we doing Clone Wars live action?
Yeah, we're
like,
doing.
I'm just gonna say, like, there's a younger Padme here doing this.
I want you to cast Clovis as he was on that mountain retreat when Embo attacked them. That's Clovis. So who's playing Clovis? Like John Hamm, he's too old now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd buy it. He needs to be. I
don't know why he popped in my head.
Who?
Robbie from Cobra Kai.
Oh. I know why. Because you find that kid handsome. Right now you're going, handsome kids, I know. Robbie from Cobra Kai.
Robbie from Cobra Kai. I don't know. Why not?
that kid. I think that he could do a lot.
I mean, he has blonde hair, I think, and Clovis had dark hair, but dye his hair. I don't know. Give him a wig, whatever.
Sure.
Just make him blonde. I don't care.
Yeah. Jake said Ben Barnes.
Ben Barnes.
I mean, in terms, so he was Jigsaw and Punisher.
Oh.
Very good looking man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't be too bad.
That would be good.
He had the really good, beard, right?
Yep.
I liked his beard.
He could play Clovis.
I'd be okay with that, yeah.
I've seen him fan casted as Revan before, though, and I like that more. The light and the dark, In
the same sense, I'd put Brett Dalton in there.
Brett Dalton?
Yeah, it depends. That's what I was saying. It depends on the age. Yeah. What age do I need them to be?
Tom Ellis. No, I'd have him I'd want Padme to abandon Anakin. Leave him. Look at him.
Look at this man. So yeah, I don't know. And I mean, we don't know what happened necessarily to Clovis, right? No. We did. Yeah. Now I got to get to the later.
You had to catch yourself up.
Banking plan thing.
Yep. So yeah. Clovis. He sacrifices himself.
Yeah. So it has
and Anakin's like, I can't carry two people.
It's got to be in that Clone Wars area. Then
it's got to be. Yeah.
He can't really be too much older. So
it would be weird if he's older than 30.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, Padme and Anakin are so young.
Yeah.
I mean, Anakin especially. But yeah, he'd need to be like. It'd be weird if he was older than 40. Definitely.
Yeah. He'd have to be probably in his 20s. I'd say.
I would say so.
So I don't know. 20-year-old Brett Dalton. That wouldn't be too bad.
I'll allow that. You can just take an actor, put him at any age.
Well, yeah, because it's a tricky thing to be like, well, when do you do that? Because do you just grab them now?
Sure. Ben Kingsley.
Kingsley when he was 20 years old. I don't know.
Matt Boomer. Matt Boomer would be a good one. Actually, I think that's probably the closest in terms of what he looks like. Matt Boomer. I could see that.
Yeah.
He's a handsome man.
Yeah. Good old Neil.
Okay. Well, that little aside, but
all right. So what else was there with? Trying to remember any other part. One part I really liked though too was we were talking about the dress and everything too, and the changing of their outfits. I enjoyed the party that she went to, where we're gonna have a secret meeting. We need a distraction. We're gonna make Amidala the distraction and invite her, and then people will be looking at her and distracted, and we can go sneak off into our meeting. And Padme's like, "All right, fine." They'll be distracted with the queen. I'm going to not be the queen and go sneak off into their meeting.
They don't realize that the queen is my distraction.
Yeah. So I thought that part was really interesting. Yeah. I also like that we had a lot more Typho.
A lot of Typho. Gregor Typho.
Right? Which, Typho's in episode 2, but he's not really in it too much.
He doesn't get a much.
Yeah. So in this one, we get him a little bit more. And they made some comment too. It's during the pirate battle or after the pirate battle where they made a comment about, she has her pilot, I forget the pilot's name now, Verste or something like that, Verste, fly in and take some hits from the cargo ship to protect it a little bit, and then they find their shields are strong enough to be able to take more, so they do it a few times. And Typho makes a comment of we're going to make sure you know how to fly a real ship, because next time we're going to be in danger, I'm going to make sure that you can fight back. And then I was like, dude, in episode 2, she's flying a Naboo starfighter.
With Typho.
And then they land guess there wasn't any danger. That happens. But
I love that scene. You're right. There was no danger.
There's no danger at all. Bam, But I thought it was really cool that that was a little little nod, a little tie-in to next time we see her in space, not being the queen, she's flying a starfighter that can fight back.
I like that part. That was good. At one point, because I think his name is Gregor Typho.
That sounds right, yeah.
At one point, it was misspelled. And in my smugness, I was like, you misspelled that. I knew it. I caught it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Weird.
Because I have this book at home.
Do you have the book?
So there was, I don't know, about 3/4 of it I was listening and reading, and I don't think I've ever retained anything more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, sometimes if I'm doing chores, doing the yard, doing something outside, I kind of crap. I wasn't paying attention. Crap. I have to go back 8 minutes.
Well, I do that when I'm reading too.
You do that?
Where I'll be reading. I'll read. I swear, I'll read 2 pages, and I'm like, the heck did I just read?
Yeah.
And I'll go back and I'll read again. I'm like, I read this.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I didn't retain it.
But if I have the book in front of me and I have the audiobook, then I'm just a retention machine.
Yeah, I bet that would help.
Kat Tabor.
I didn't even mention that.
In Padme's voice.
Dude, having her be the voice for this was so cool.
Yeah,
I loved
really
having
cool.
there's Padme's voice. Great. The only thing that could have beat it would be Natalie Portman herself, you know?
Yeah.
But Catherine Tabor does a great job with it.
She does a great job. I kind of felt the same way with Ashley Eckstein. Like, I wouldn't have any other way than her read the Ahsoka book. But she doesn't, I can't tell the difference between some of Cat Tabor's, male voices,
Sure.
But that happens to me when male performers are doing female voices. I can't tell the difference between their female voices, so it's not a huge deal.
No.
But I personally thought it was cool. I could hear the difference between her Padme, her Amidala, her Sabe, it was pretty cool. Really cool.
Her Sabe doing Amidala.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
No, that was really fun.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they got her to do it.
Yeah.
And I hope they get her to do the other two.
That was one of my favorite parts of the book, was just like whenever they're like, read to you by Catherine
Tabor.
I was like, oh, sweet. But no, the moment whenever she sneaks off and does her little mission to listen in on their meeting and stuff too, I thought was really good. And then she's like, oh, they're going to come meet me. I need to hurry up and get back.
Yeah.
I love that she also okay, let me hurry up and go this way. All right, good. I beat them. And then Bail Organa walks out a door. And he's like, oh, sorry. And he moves and looks at her right in
the face.
Right in her handmaiden face.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah, he says she turns the corner and she hears a small chuckle.
Yeah. I was like, oh, man, that's so cool.
Uh-huh.
So I like Bail and Padme
Me too.
meeting each other. I like the introduction to Bria.
I was going to say, I like Padme and Breha. I think a little bit more.
Yeah.
Two queens, one world.
And
you decide.
Both mothers of Leia, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, I think, why that scene's there.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool to have that.
I personally never got that Breha was, burned. Like, she has, burnt skin or something from something, and she chose not to fix it.
How often do we see her?
Not very often. I mean,
no.
Obi-Wan
Kenobi
has been the most,
series,
and she
right?
was awesome in that.
Yeah, I don't remember any kind of burn.
Yeah, I don't know. They talk something about her, going on, Queen's quest to a mountain and being injured and choosing not to get it fixed because, she wants to show her scars. I'm not really sure exactly. But the two different versions of a monarch, one hereditary, one elected, but them trying to find what's similar versus what's different was really cool. I like those moments, and there's a small part of me that did get a little, not excited, but maybe even somber, thinking that Padme is speaking to the woman who will raise her daughter.
Yeah. No, I like that. I thought it was nice that they had that introduction. And even Bale's like, hey, come meet my wife. And I was like, yes, go do that. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
So that was definitely a part that I liked as well. On the note of Sabe as well, I talked about her a little bit, but I liked what this did for Sabe because I don't feel like there's much story for her in any of the movies. She's just kind of around.
I was going to say earlier, man, don't you kind of wish you got some of this stuff in the movie? But that would ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
It works on you. Mm-hmm. You don't need to know, you don't see all those things. Those things are happening, but it's tricking you so you can't see them.
Yeah.
I'm like,
no,
fair.
It's great. I mean, Keira Knightley, I think there was something I read that was talking about how Keira Knightley's mom couldn't tell the difference between Keira Knightley and Padme when they were in the Queen's outfit and makeup and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, out of anyone who could tell you the difference, it's probably your mom,
Yeah.
But they're like, I don't know which one's which.
I mean,
and I'm like, that's really
I can remember having watched the Pirates movies with Keira Knightley in them. And that's how I was kind of introduced to her.
Yeah.
At least I thought. And then hearing later, oh, she was actually Sabe, the decoy, and going in my head being like, oh, I just assumed they did cloning shots, and there's just two. Yeah, honestly, I did. But again, I watched it young, and Lucas is like, that's what I made it for, to trick these kids,
Got him.
Yeah, got him. So I kind of mourn not seeing that part.
Yeah.
But hindsight's 2020.
Sure.
I wouldn't have had the feeling of, oh my God, Padme tricked me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So within this, getting all the handmaiden stuff, Sabe especially, I think was my favorite. I think she had the most time. We cut and had just some sections of the chapters and stuff with just her.
Yeah.
And her journey trying to do the slave freeing with dang it, whatever the guy she was with.
The dude. I'm sorry, I don't remember the dude's name.
Tanya or something.
Yeah.
Something Tanya.
Tanzra.
Something with a T.
Yep.
I forget it.
He's very memorable.
Yeah, he was okay. He was kind of like another bodyguard.
He fought at the Battle of Naboo.
Yeah.
And he's a sweet dude.
Yeah.
And, Sabe's got needs.
Sure.
No, I don't know.
Which there was a scene that I was like,
sexy.
I listened to this a lot in my truck.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm driving the kids places, and I was like, yeah, I'll listen to this part later.
Hey,
I don't know where this is going.
son, I'm listening to this by myself later.
But there was definitely a steamier scene that I'm like, I mean, I don't think they're going to go too far. It's Star Wars, but.
They went like Indoor season 1 far enough, I feel like, right? It's like, oh, no, it's there. It's happening. Yeah. There's no like, there's no cut to black.
He lifts her up on the counter, you know, like there's like there's kissing of the necks and there's things like that, and I'm like, okay, we're getting a little heated here, you know.
Yeah, it wasn't like that one book. What was that one book we read? Those between Survivor and Fallen Order.
Oh, Battle Scars.
Battle Scar, like that one was like that scene times, Kaioken times 20, you know.
Yeah, I guess so. But within all that too, like there's also the talk about Sabe being in the Queen's shadow. Yeah. Right. And did you get the feeling of like she has a interest in Padme, but she knows that it can't be kind of thing? Because there's a part wherever I felt like Sabe has like an interest in Padme where it's like I will always be there for her, but I know she will always be there for Naboo. You know what I mean? Like one of those kind of things. And it felt to me like maybe I love her, but I know I can't tell her that. But I will just always be there for her, but I know she can't always be there for me. But and then she's talking to the guy. Yeah. And then I feel like that kind of leads into them kind of having more of a romantic relationship between those two.
Progressive, straight, white guy, honest answer. I didn't even think about it.
Really?
Yeah. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. It's just that my defaults go to not that.
Sure.
So now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay. Damn, you might be right.
Maybe. I don't know. That's how I took one.
I mean, I can. I can see that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because she's always like, I'll always be there for you. There's like, she's always, everything she needs, she's like always there for and stuff too. And I felt like it was more than just like, I have a duty. I felt like it was like, almost like that friend zone kind of idea too, where it's like, they're always there for me. They're the best friend I've ever had. Sure. But they're like, I really want more, but I know I can't get more out of this. But I'm gonna just stay with what I've got kind of thing. I'd rather have this than nothing. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I was thinking about a little bit. Which I was like, well, that's interesting to have that element there, and I wondered if that kind of like we get to the end of this book and the epilogue is focused more so on Sabe, which I was like, ooh, maybe I don't know if they do, but like, do we get to see where Sabe goes after this in like one of the other Padme books or in something else? Because I think like Bail Organa called her and was like, hey, I have something for you, and I was like, what could that be? Is she gonna like help take care of Leia and be a bodyguard for her? Is there going to be like secret missions that she needs to do for him? You know, like I don't know what it's going to be. But I was just curious and interested on that. Like what cooler things, like either I cared for this person or, they were my best friend and I'm going to help take care of their daughter. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool, but I don't know what it's going to be.
Do you want me to tell you like the thing that not what's happening, but like where she appears? And that we might get into?
To see her again, yeah.
Apparently, she shows up in the Vader comics.
Oh, really?
It's going to be interesting. Vader interacting with someone that looks just like his wife.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
So I'd be excited for that. Ever since you mentioned that, do you think that she might have feelings for Padme? Like, I cannot stop my brain from writing like an SNL sketch about a person that is dressed up as their crush.
I mean,
everybody thinks that you're your crush. Like, there's a lot of like very complicated feelings there.
Oh yeah, and that very well could
real
be why,
funny.
Right? Like maybe that's a thing too. Like she's in her mind so much that she starts to really care for her.
Yeah.
Because of that bodyguard kind of thing, I don't know.
That's a character study.
So yeah, it's an interesting idea if that's what they were doing. With it. But and then also I thought it was the very beginning. I think the prologue part of it. Yeah. I thought was cool because it was episode 1. It was like Trade Federation's landing, and it's in the mind of like Padme and handmaidens, and they're preparing for them to come and like, all right, let's go, which I thought was fine, but I didn't make it through 2 passes through the book. I've been trying to like, especially when I drive now, like having that in my car is being able to like listen to it hopefully more frequently. Yeah. And once I get through it once, then I can just let it play, and I'm not as like, oh, did I miss something? Because I can just hear more. Maybe I catch something else I missed.
I recently just moved, so I'm much further away from things than I used to be. I used to be like 3 or 4 minutes away from
anything.
Stuff. So I'd turn my book on, and I'm like 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, done. Remember that in an hour, But now that I live a little further, I actually like am getting those moments longer, more often. So that's been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you realize this or not, but after the little like prologue thing of episode 1, the very beginning scene starts with Padme, and it's describing her, and it says things like, she lays there, floating, still, motionless on her face, with flowers in her hair, right?
Yep.
They say the same thing in the epilogue.
I know. I didn't get into the epilogue.
You didn't what?
I didn't think about it into the epilogue with the roses in the hair thing.
Really?
I just in the first one I was like, okay, yeah, she does a lot of weird stuff.
I didn't realize it in the beginning. I listened to the epilogue, and when I was listening to the epilogue, this is in her funeral, like when it goes through, right? She's floating on the thing. She has the flowers in her hair, like all this stuff is happening. And then when I was re-listening to it, I'm like, dude, it's like word for word the same thing in the beginning of the actual book after the prologue, and then in the epilogue is like the same description.
Oh, wow.
Just she's floating in water on like this lake. And then
Kino,
one of the handmaidens come and like mess with her.
Yeah.
But then at the very end, it's her doing the exact same description of her in her funeral. And I was like, oh man, I didn't realize they did that. That's kind of cool. Damn. I just thought it was neat.
That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Just thought it was really neat.
Yeah.
Liked that a lot.
Speaking of the epilogue, though, good old Captain Panaka.
Dude, did you know?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that Panaka.
I knew that Panaka is like straight up an Imperial officer.
Yeah, and he like runs Naboo. They don't do queen or governor or whatever, and he takes over as a
They
Imperial.
see it pretty good in the book too, because they're talking about planetary defense.
Yeah,
and Naboo are pacifists. They don't do that, but we have this thing called the Ion Dome or something like that.
Yeah,
but
Ion something.
Yeah.
I think is that in? Did you play Battlefront 2?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there was something they had in Battlefront 2, and I was like, is it that thing?
That is the thing that on Naboo you activate against the
Ember
Project
in Cinder.
Yeah, Cinder. Project Cinder.
Okay.
That's the thing the rebels do. Yeah.
All right.
So it is that.
I was wondering what it was.
I can't remember the name right now. It's stuck in the tip of my tongue.
I don't know. Chad, if you remember, let us know. But it's Ion something.
But
or
Hugh
Ion...
Corshi, not Hugh Corshi, that's the actor's name. Panaka.
Quarsh, yeah.
Yeah. He
was for more, right?
He was for more. And actually, that's one of the things, like, that took him out of service. He was so against it that they kind of, like, said, well, I mean, you can retire and we not talk about this big rift that's right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the Empire in Naboo, he's the one that takes over. He's the one that gets what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we had his wife in here too, as a Captain Panaka as well.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was like her and then Typho and stuff.
And that's his nephew.
Kind of the main ones that were there. So, no, and I thought that happened. I was like, dude, he was an Imperial.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever hearing about that. All right, well, he didn't seem that bad. Maybe he's not that bad of an Imperial. I don't know, but I have no idea. I don't know if we get more story with him at some point in the future. But I think that'd be cool.
He didn't improve the way the Jedi did things.
I mean, I guess so. He said that a lot, right? Dude, speaking of characters from episode 1, we also had a mention of Rick Oli. Though I don't think the book told me it was Oli. They said it in a different way.
Rick Oli.
Olie or something like that, maybe?
Yeah.
But, like, I kind of felt
Bravo
bad.
1. Bravo leader.
Yeah. I felt bad, though, because I was like, oh, well, he was in the Battle of Naboo.
Yep.
And he had an injury in his ear that allows him not to, like, go into space anymore.
That sucks.
I was like, that sucks. Because, like, he was, like, the best pilot they had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean... He didn't say a lot of important stuff, just kind of what was already happening.
Very obvious stuff,
yeah.
Captain Obvious.
But he was a good pilot.
Yeah. He was a good pilot.
I had an action figure of him. I was like,
I had Rick Oli. Yeah, absolutely. I have one over there. I'm sure I have at least 3 over there.
Yeah, I had a little one.
Yeah, the
I didn't have like a Black
quarter.
Series one or nothing, but
yeah, no, he was cool. Well,
anything else in the book?
I mean, I'm looking forward for more. I got to the end. I gotta admit, I was a little disappointed that I thought there was more.
At least it's good that you wanted more.
Yeah,
and it wasn't like, well, this is a little long-winded.
But I had the benefit of like, well, I know there's 2 more of these,
sure.
So something's gonna happen,
Yeah.
But I wonder if people that watched it or did the first time were like, "Wow."
There's only one other thing I know about the trilogy.
Okay.
And that's
a clone trooper.
No, it's not about anything in the book itself. It's more about the times that they take place.
I don't know that then.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. And it's not even the precise times.
Yeah.
So it's just a rough idea. So other than that, no, I'd like to I'd like to see like if there's more Sabe. I actually kind of liked having Sabe's story just to get to know who that character was because they're important in episode 1. You just don't really get to know them.
Not really.
You know? So, no, I look forward to doing Queen's Peril, I think is the next book.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to 2024 where we get more into that.
Yeah.
And hopefully more into a lot of things.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all.
Absolutely.
We won't be going into Queen's Peril next, though.
No.
Right?
There's going to be another book before then, Aaron.
Yeah.
And yes, we are going into the future, into 2024. But the book we're choosing goes into the past, where we'll be reading next A Test of Courage by Justina Ireland, Book 3 in the High Republic.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll
going back into the High Republic.
It'd be fun to get a little bit more High Republic stuff into there too. We also, which is awesome, it helped me a lot in our most recent mailbag, got a character encyclopedia
of the High Republic.
Of the High Republic.
Yeah.
And I was like, this will be really cool. I will enjoy being able to like, okay, who's this character look like, or get an image in my head of these characters and stuff too. And I don't want to dive too much and get like super spoilers and stuff. Yeah. But there's definitely going to be, I think, some information that could help maybe supplement some parts and stuff too, which would be cool.
A wave rider at Star Wars Celebration this year, was it Nexus? I can't remember exactly who. Gave me a bookmark that has all the major Jedi.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you could be reading along and just be like, wait, who's this? Ah.
Yeah, there you go. It's like flashcards.
Yeah, exactly.
So that'd be really cool. It'd be neat to get back into some High Republic stuff and whatnot too. But I definitely want to get into more of the Queen stuff too.
Oh yeah.
But there's so much.
There's so much.
Like I don't know a lot of Legends. Maybe at some point we can get to those. But there's so much canon story that whether it's like present or High Republic era, there's so much of it that we haven't done that I'm excited for. There's that book with Luke and Lando. I would love to read that.
But we can't. Not yet.
Yeah.
So if you're, like we were just a year ago, like the High Republic, there's a lot out now, and I feel like I'm being left behind. Well, we've only done 2 books so far. You can read those first 2 books and check out the reviews that we did.
Light of the Jedi and Into the Dark.
And you can also check out A Test of Courage and join us for the next deep dive into the High Republic.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm excited to continue that journey.
Yeah. And we look to getting into some of the comic stuff as well and trying to cover some of that. So hopefully we will be able to help lead through a lot of the comic lore too that can kind of tie in with the books and stuff.
Yeah.
So that'd be good.
Yeah. And I mean, we have these conversations and we want you to engage with the material, but if not all of us have the time, we still want these videos to be entertaining. So even if you haven't read the stuff, maybe you can listen to the conversation, get kind of an idea, and that helps kind of fill in some Star Wars gaps.
Sure.
Follow along that way too.
And if nothing else, I know there was someone who's was talking about this book specifically, where there's more Bail content in this book too, because Bail Organa is. I know a lot of people's they really like Bail Organa. I love Bail Organa.
I love Bail.
Getting to see Jimmy is great. But we don't get him a whole lot. So getting some of those moments in these books and stuff too is Bail Organa's sweet.
Yep.
I really liked in this book. There's a point when they're going to the Senate for the first time or some kind of meeting for the first time, and it's like a trap, and they get to a point where clearly something fishy's going on.
Yeah.
The droid leading them starts going no, or glitching and stuff. And then Bail Organa just shows up, and that's one of the points where I'm like, well, if you don't really know who Bail is or where the story goes in the future, what's this guy doing here? It seems a little shady.
I have to ask, how many people do you think pick up this book and it's their first Star Wars thing?
I don't know.
I mean, I can't imagine it's not. I can't imagine it's any.
Probably not. I mean,
it's got to be one.
Maybe it's one of those things too, where it's sometimes clearly the people watching or reading are gonna know this.
Yeah.
But the character doesn't know that, so we really gotta dive into the character's mindset. So
I'm just always curious. Is there one guy that was real bored? He's been locked in a room for a year, and the only thing in there is this book.
Shadow.
He's like, I've read it 50 times.
Let's see who this is.
Yeah. I'm really interested. I'm really into that Palpatine guy. I think he's going to do some really good work in the Republic.
He's trying to help slaves and stop pirates.
Yeah,
it's great.
Exactly. The Jedi are weird. I don't know what the hell they do.
No, I don't know. And I'm not sure, but
okay.
I can't imagine that's the target audience.
No, not at all.
But maybe there's someone.
Yeah.
What's this? This looks like a neat book. I'll get it from my grandkid. And they're like, I never read Star Wars before.
I think that effort was put into the Ahsoka series for people that might not have watched Rebels, but I don't think there was any effort put into this book for people that haven't watched Episode 1 at least.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. All right. Well, you have any more thoughts on Queen Shadow?
That's it.
All right, guys. Well, there's some of our general thoughts on Queen Shadow. A little bit of spoiler stuff, I suppose, in there if you haven't read it. But we didn't dive into everything. So it's definitely a fun read. It's not super long either. Mm-hmm. I think the audiobook was 8 hours or so.
Yeah, really quick.
So it doesn't take a ton of time. But we'll get into more Padme stories in the future at some point. We'll see what 2024 has for us.